In today's video, we're covering US 275 and we're also going to see how Provincial Iowa is. US 275 is 265.8 miles going through Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska. When we meet US 136 west of Rockport, we get signed north for Hamburg in 17 miles. There's actually nothing else in Missouri, so here's the Iowa State welcome sign. I couldn't find anything in Hamburg, but when we meet Iowa 2, we're now concurrent with it and we're now signed for Sydney in 4 miles. When Iowa 2 leaves us, it is signed west for Shenandoah in 15 miles, and we're now signed north for Tabor in 11. This should just be Omaha at this point. US 275 is the fastest way to it from here. Why is Iowa being so provincial? North of Tabor on the mileage sign, Glenwood is our secondary in 13 miles and Council Bluffs is our primary in 31. Omaha is just right next to Council Bluffs. Just sign Omaha and stop being provincial. When we meet US 34, it's now concurrent with us, and we're still signed for the exact same places. Just sign Omaha already. It's not that hard. When US 34 leaves us, we're now concurrent with I-29, signed north for Council Bluffs still. Do I even need to say anything anymore? I'm getting tired of saying the same stuff over and over. When US 275 leaves I-29, we're now signed for the Veterans Memorial Highway. We're now crossing over the Missouri River into Nebraska, and here's the Nebraska State welcome sign. When we meet parent route US 75, we're now signed for L Street along with Nebraska 92. When we meet I-80, we're still signed for L Street with Nebraska 92 still. When we meet US 6, we're signed west for Wahoo, which is for Nebraska 92. Also, US 275 should have its own control city here, which should be Fremont. When US 275 leaves Nebraska 92, there are no control cities at all whatsoever. On the mileage sign, strangely, Omaha is now our primary again in 20 miles, and Fremont is our secondary in 19. Just sign Fremont, don't sign Omaha. It's weird. I'm assuming it's signed though because of this, because it's actually quite easy to loop back to Omaha from here, but still, it's confusing. So Fremont should have just been signed the entire time. At that same interchange, we can see that we're signed west for Fremont, which is what it should have been the entire time. Before crossing into Fremont, we meet US 77 and are now concurrent with it and have no control cities at all. Not long after, US 30 joins the mix, so we're now signed for Norfolk in 78 miles, which is for US 275. First of all, South Sioux City is in Nebraska, and Sioux City is right next to it. Stop being provincial and just sign Sioux City. Anyways, US 77 and 275 leave US 30 here, and US 275 is still signed for Norfolk, and US 77 is signed for the aforementioned South Sioux City. When US 77 leaves us, it thankfully gets signed for Sioux City. On the mileage sign, Norfolk is still our primary in 65 miles, and Hooper is our secondary in 3. In Norfolk, we meet US 81, and there's no control city at all for any highways. Shortly after that, we get a mileage sign with Neely as the primary in 33 miles and Meadowbrook as the secondary in 15. Just sign O'Neill, it's larger than Neely. On a mileage sign in Neely, O'Neill becomes our primary in 40 miles with Clearwater being our secondary in 8. For some reason, instead of just ending at US 20 when we meet it, we're now running concurrent with it towards O'Neill for another 13 miles. Just end it here, there's no point. And when we reach O'Neill, when we meet US 281, US 275 just randomly ends out of nowhere. It should have just ended at US 20, but yeah, When turning around, US 275 just appears and is now concurrent with US 20. On the mileage sign, the bottom line is Sioux City in 124 miles, which is for US 20, and the secondary is Neely in 39 for US 275. I think this should be Norfolk though, however. When US 20 leaves us, South Sioux City is signed. Again! I already went over this. Sioux City is just right there. Just sign it. Anyways, we're now actually signed for Norfolk instead, which is good. In Norfolk, we meet US 81 again and also don't receive any control cities again. Soon after that interchange, we get signed for Fremont at 74 miles, which I think should actually be co-signed with Omaha. We're now concurrent with US 77 heading towards Fremont. In Fremont, US 77 and 275 join US 30 signed for Omaha, which is for US 275, and Lincoln, which is for US 77. When US 30 leaves us, it gets signed east for Blair. When US 77 leaves us, it's still signed south for Lincoln. When we reach Omaha, we meet I-80 and we're now signed for L Street. When we meet parent route US 75 again, we're still signed for L Street. We're now crossing back over the Missouri River into Iowa. When we join I-29, we're now signed south for Kansas City, which US 275 not having a control city here is fine. When US 275 leaves I-29 here for US 34, 34, we're now signed for Glenwood. In Glenwood, we're now signed for Red Oak, which is for US 34. When US 275 leaves US 34, we're now signed south for Tabor in 9 miles and Sydney in 21. On a mileage sign south for Tabor, we get this amazing mileage sign with Sydney on the top line in 10 miles, Hamburg as the secondary in 20, and St. Joseph as the bottom line in 121. Also, if we're signing St. Joseph, I would just sign Kansas City. Anyways, this does kind of actually make up for the Council Bluffs shenanigans, but like Iowa. Still, Omaha. In Sydney, though, we meet Iowa 2 and are now signed for Hamburg in 10 miles. Iowa 2 is also concurrent with us, and when it leaves us, Hamburg is now only 6 miles away. There were no control cities in Hamburg, so here we cross into Missouri and there's no state welcome sign. When meeting a county road, we can see that we're signed south for Rockport in 6 miles. And when we meet US 136, it only gets a control city for eastbound, this being Rockport in a mile. The control cities for northbound should be Hamburg, then Sydney, then Omaha, skip Tabor and Council Bluffs, then the Veterans Memorial Highway when you leave I-29, then L Street when meeting US 75, then Fremont when leaving Nebraska 92, Norfolk, and then O'Neill, skip Neely. And for southbound, the control city should be Norfolk, then Fremont and Omaha. Don't sign Fremont by itself, then L Street when you meet I-80, then Kansas City when you're concurrent with I-29, then Glenwood, Sydney, Hamburg, and finally Rockport. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed today's video, please subscribe. I also have more videos on my channel where I cover more US highways and also cover interstates and state highways, and I also look into and review control cities. Anyways, see you guys next time. Bye!